Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 7th instalment of the VBA's Practitioner Education Series. In this particular series, we'll be hearing from the VBA's Manager of Audit and Inspections, Darren Nixon, and Team Leader of Audit and Inspections, Adam Falconer. They'll be discussing the proactive inspections and audits and how these have been best done virtually in our day-to-day work. It's great to see so many people attending today's session, and hopefully you'll find it valuable and worthwhile. My name is Stuart Draffin, and I'm the Director of Audits and Inspections at the VBA. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. For me, this is the land of the Wurundjeri tribe of the Kulin Nation. And I pay my respects to the elders past and present, and extend my respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who are here today. As we'd all experienced, COVID-19 has forced us all into new ways of working. And for those that attended the Building Surveyors Conference earlier this year, you may or may not be aware of the steps that VBA is taking to better utilise technology in our day-to-day operations to have a greater impact on industry. The most obvious example has been through the webinars like this, where we've been able to extend our reach and provide ongoing education to all practice situations, and physical meetings are difficult to hold. For the purpose of today though, we're going to explore how we've been using technology in the VBA's Audit and Inspections program. Later in the session, we'll have the time to answer some of your questions. So I'd like to draw your attention to the Q&A icon on the bottom of your screen and encourage you to type your questions there throughout the session, where Darren and Adam will be able to address as many of your questions as time permits. Please also note that today's session will be recorded and will be available on YouTube channel after the session, along with previous webinars. For now, I'd like to hand over to Darren and Adam for the presentation, and we'll come back to you later in the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Good afternoon all and welcome. My name is Adam Falconer, Team Leader of Plumbing Audits. My plumbing background is a little bit domestic and a fair bit of commercial. I came to the industry as a mature age apprentice down in Ballarat. And I've now been with the VBA for around 5 years. Today we will run through a new aspect of the audit process. Hopefully we can introduce virtual audits to you all and give a better understanding of what to expect when conducting them. Like Stuart mentioned, we will have time at the end for Q&As. You don't need to wait. You can type your questions in the chat function, and we can get to them at the end. The Victorian Building Authority's regulatory approach establishes our strategy to regulate Victoria's building and plumbing industries and sets out the goals and outcomes we are committed to working towards. Our regulatory approach provides industry, the public, other regulators, government, and our field staff with a clear statement of how we aim to perform our role and what Victorians can expect from the VBA. The regulatory approach also guides how we set priorities, make resource allocation decisions, and develop policies that guide our operations. Our mission is to regulate for a quality built environment in Victoria. For the VBA to be a trusted regulator, a respected industry, to be transparent and be responsive to issues in the industry, but also to new and emerging technologies and products. strategic objectives is to protect our community by protecting consumers from dodgy practitioners and poor plumbing installations, but it's also to protect our industry by lifting the bar and educating plumbers around the standards and our expectations. Empower the industry, practitioners and consumers. Respond to risks and concerns through a risk-based regulation. Finding and educating the poor performing practitioners to improve the built environment. Influence industry and key decision makers. Improve our culture and capability. And one step that we're taking to improve that is by incorporating new methods of inspections to gain a greater reach within our plumbing community. We have two different inspection methods within the inspections services departments, the plumbing audit program and the proactive inspections program. Plumbing audits is where we conduct risk-based compliance audits and below ground drainage inspections of completed plumbing work throughout the state of Victoria. Compliance audits conducted on-site audits, compliance auditors conduct on-site audits to sample perform plumbing work based on the lodgement of compliance certificates. The auditor's role is to ensure that the plumbing work complies with all relevant plumbing laws and standards. The compliance certificates to be audited each month are selected using risk-based criteria. And also, depending on the time of year, we change our focuses a little bit into different areas, such as through winter, in a non-COVID environment, we tend to look at more gas heating appliances and CO audits. Through summer is air conditioners and caravans. Roofs are always a focus, as it seems to be the biggest rate of failure in the plumbing space, and all other sorts of plumbing in between. Proactive inspections program involves teams of building and plumbing inspectors who are VBA authorised officers inspecting building and plumbing works under construction throughout Victoria. This is with the purpose of reducing non-compliant construction work. By inspecting work under construction, the VBA can address significant failures early, resulting in better outcomes for all involved. Rectification is often easier, where the cost of rectification is covered by the practitioners, and it avoids impacting the safety, health and amenity of future residents if the non-compliance had remained undetected. Virtual audits and inspections. Due to COVID-19, the virtual audit program was accelerated as a method of inspecting during the pandemic to keep up our regulatory function whilst keeping movement in the community to a minimum. Through trial and error and industry feedback, we now have a system which works in all areas of the state and under most community guidelines and restrictions. The VBA utilises for these virtual inspections the digital meeting platform Microsoft Teams. Trial and testing was completed. A slide pack was created to assist the audit and scheduling staff walk practitioners through step by step what they should be seeing on their phones or iPads and how to navigate the app. As an authorised person under the Building Act 1993, Subdivision 4, Part 228E, entry for monitoring and other purposes, a VBA inspector must obtain written consent. We do this via our powers of entry documents, and we need this from the building occupier to enter and inspect the building and plumbing work. The digital platform DocuSign has been utilised for these powers of entry forms, and templates made for the schedulers to send to plumbers, homeowners and auditors. When the virtual audits are being discussed with the plumbers, we need you to contact the occupier to get consent for their email to be shared with us. This serves two purposes. One, the occupier is aware of the audit is about to happen, as this step sometimes gets forgotten. And two, the forms go automatically to the occupier, and then we have a zero contact consent form. It then comes back to the auditor, and we keep a register of the forms at the VBA as required under the Building Act. Keeping it simple. The VBA didn't want to increase costs for practitioners by asking them to purchase expensive video equipment to use in our virtual audit program. Mobile devices such as phones and tablets are in everybody's toolkit. Be mindful of battery power whilst conducting virtual audits. Tablets do provide a larger battery capacity and a better viewing screen. We have found that the virtual audits do chew up your phone batteries. So next, we'll run through an edited down version of a virtual audit. And just as a heads up, we've blurred out a little section here of the plumber's license for privacy reasons. So it's not your computer playing up. And as you'll be able to see, Clint introduces himself, shows his ID, the plumber shows his. We get a visual ID of the property via the meter box. And that's so we can confirm that the work being looked at is what's on the plumber's certificate. So this will run for about 10 minutes.
Good morning. I'm Clint, the plumbing inspector, and you are?
Where are we? I am Christian.
Just down a bit or up a bit. There we
Like that?
Camera, tilt the camera back a tad. Okay, gotcha there. All right, Christian, thank you.
Beautiful.
And just to confirm the street address where we are.
Yep.
Just tilt your camera up a little bit. Yep, 11 Sweeney Drive. So we're looking at 4 units.
Yep.
So it's 4 units total on site by the looks.
Yep.
Okay. And you were saying you've done the stormwater. We can have a look at that first if you like. You've got a few pits down the driveway, have you?
It's there.
Yep. A little bit hard to see how they're formed.
Yep.
So is there any stormwater retention systems in these?
There is, yeah. Just a small little. See down there, we got 375, a couple links of 300 there going upstream.
Mm-hmm.
You got the retention pit up here.
So it's going towards the back.
Yeah, that's it.
Basically.
Barrel
Yep.
at the back, yeah. Trash grate there.
Okay.
There's
Yep.
a plate and orifice through the baffle wall. And then,
All
yeah,
right.
it goes out here, so
That's
that's pretty
good.
much it for that one.
And I know you haven't done the sewer, but was that sewer or stormwater that PVC in the little shed on the ground? It was,
Oh, that's the sewer cap, I believe.
just put your camera down so I can see that.
Yeah, just there.
Yeah. So that's the main sewer point for the property.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I can't get that off. I think I'm glued on.
So it's a glued cap or screwed cap, that one?
That one's just a glued cap at the moment, yeah.
All right.
The drainer has to come back and fix a couple of bits and pieces up before
So
it's finished.
who's just while we'll head back up to the front to start for a minute, but with
Yeah, no
something
worries.
like that,
Yeah.
who's responsible for the fitting off the ORG's sewer points?
That's the drain plumber.
All right. So would there be ORGs in place at the moment?
There
Potentially?
is, yeah.
Yep.
They're
All
not
right.
they're not fitted off at the moment, yeah.
Okay, so you've got a main meter there. Is there any backflow on the main meter?
Yep. Got a dual check.
Just tilt your camera down
there you
slightly
go.
so I
See
can
that?
see it. Down, down, down. Okay. So one dual check and onto your property water, the individual water meters.
Yep. Dual check and a 500 kVA limiting.
Yep. Have you got tags or ID on
Yeah.
them by the looks on the handles?
Yep. You see them?
Unit 3, 2, and 1. Okay,
Yep.
that's good. Any water standpipes out the front? Have you got a
Any
water tap out the front
no, they are.
near the meters? No. Okay, that's fine.
Can you let me know is that a good angle?
Yeah, I can see that. So you've got
That's on
he's put
screen.
3 kPa in it. Yep.
Yeah.
If you just go back a little bit, just so I can see the testing tee and I can see everything in place. That's it.
Just there?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So you've got a meter support bracket in there, and
Yep.
I'll get you to go around sideways so I can see that
Yeah.
plastic they've sleeved the pipe in. Just down a little bit, thanks.
Just there.
Okay. All right. And another one head on. I'll just have a look at it from front on where you were before. I'm just taking a couple of screenshots at the moment.
You're right.
Just back a little bit if you can. Okay. Tilt your camera up. That's it. Okay. Thanks, Christian. All right. So you're happy with that test? Looks like it's
Yep. Yeah.
great.
Yeah. It's not moving. So can you see that?
Okay. So look, with that gas line, you said someone else has done the roughings here, gas and
Yeah,
water.
it's correct. Yeah.
That's right. Have they put any gas identification on what type of pipe work they've used? When you use composite pipe, it's identified as a gas meter.
Nah. There's nothing I can see. No.
Nothing there. Okay. And you haven't run any gas line? Only
I haven't touched
installed
any,
appliances.
no gas line at all.
Okay.
No.
All right. Okay, if you like, you can head around. So we're looking for the ORG points, your hot water unit, anything outside, gas barbecue points if you want to walk around the outside,
Yeah.
rainwater tanks.
Oh, actually, I'll show the ORG. It's just around here.
So are they charged by fixtures or taps?
Yeah.
Fixtures.
Yeah, fixtures. So this one's charged by the sink. It's just here, but it's not fitted off.
Okay, so just if you go back a little bit and just tilt your camera down. Okay, so that's an ORG.
Yep.
Do you want to just pop the cap off so I can
Yeah.
see if there's a water seal in it, if that's fine?
Give us 2 seconds. I've got one at the moment.
So just let me have a look down at it if I can. Just tilt your camera
I think this one's been
other way. Other way.
Nope. That
That's
way?
it. Yeah. So it's offset, is it, a little bit?
It looks like it, yeah.
It's come up under the slab a little bit. So no water in there.
Not at the moment, nah.
All right. It may not have been used. All right. So that's just outside the kitchen.
Yeah.
If there was to be an individual sewer point for this property, it would have been on that other side of the house.
It's they are in the driveway, yeah.
Okay. Onsen 26, that's a new one.
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought, but it is marked and everything.
Yep.
Do you want to take a screenshot?
Yeah, if you want to go into the compliance plate where it is, I'll have a look at that. Maybe the gas megajoule reading.
There it is. You see that?
Okay, just stay put there and I'll grab a picture of that. So 205 megajoules. Okay. I'll get you to go to the front again.
Yep. To the front of the house or the
Yeah,
front of the
no, front of the hottie. Yeah, stay there.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Okay,
See that?
just back up a bit if you can. Okay, steady there.
Yeah.
And tilt the camera up a little bit.
Yep.
All right, and while you're standing there, what I'm looking at is clearances. So I'll just get you to tilt the camera up towards the eaves so I can see what's above it. Okay. And down. Then we just tilt it up a little bit so I can see the flow. Then we just go left. So you've got an external corner, which looks like it's more than 300. You can put your tape on that if you like, Christian, or just from the unit to the brickwork. Anyway, it's fine. It doesn't have to be up high. Tilt your camera up a little bit.
You say that?
Okay. I got about 420, 450 to the flow. Yeah, not a problem. That's fine. Okay, and your gas, hot and cold pipe work underneath him. 20 mil, that's good. Okay, and just down where the elbows are, so I can see a little bit lower down. Down. Okay, all good.
Love that.
And with that unit,
Yep.
normally we can see the 50-degree stamp on
Oh,
that.
yeah. Yeah, it's just there.
We got one somewhere.
You said that?
Okay, I'll just grab that. Okay. All right, thank you.
All good.
So is there a watermark on that one at all? I got
Yeah, just on the side.
it's on this side. I'll just get you to tilt your camera up a bit. I'm just catching the bottom of it. You go in closer if you like. Go right in. So tilt your camera up. We'll just get that just steady there. Okay. Yeah, that's a brand new one to us. We haven't seen one
Yeah.
that brand before. So did the builder pick them up? Or
Yeah, it's builder supplied.
So not sure where they're from.
Yeah, don't know, to be honest.
Okay.
All right, so that was a short example of a block of units that was being audited. The actual video went for about half an hour, but we just thought we'd show you the important parts. So guidelines and processes, our heads up and safety is the first thing. Our auditors will give you guys a call approximately 5 minutes prior to ensure the meeting is to take place at the scheduled time and that you are present on site. It gives us an opportunity to make sure whoever is on site has the meeting invitation in their calendar on their device, has the app downloaded and can discuss OH&S while using the phone on site. Things like trying not to look through the phone, while you're walking around. Introduction and identification. Once a good connection is established, introductions and identifications take place like you saw in the video, and then we confirm the address either via looking at the front letterbox or through the meter box. We try to reinforce the safety, remind the plumbers that of OH&S, and to be mindful of where they're walking, what obstacles are around, and try not to look through the phone, as you can get caught trying to do that, to actually look over the phone while you're walking around. They run through a quick part of the legal requirements, advising the plumber or the rep who's on site that the audit or rectification is going to be recorded, and then they read out a disclaimer, a warning against self-incrimination. They start advising the plumber then to direct the phone to the works that have been completed on the certificate, and that screenshots will be taken of areas if required. Questions are directed to the plumber around the plumbing works on site to gain more knowledge of any potential non-compliance. Once the virtual audit has concluded, the auditor will contact the plumber via phone to discuss the result and any faults that may have been identified. And then he, in turn, can notify the occupier or the homeowner. Any questions and queries of fault items are to be directed to the VBA's technical email address. The completed audits results are finalised via the VBA audit application, and the video is stored in a cloud system that we use here at the VBA.
Just noting from the presentation, the buffering you may have experienced through the presentation of the video playing, when it's actually done in real time, it's very clear. And when we're watching it back too, it is very clear. So if you experience that buffering, just be aware that that's not the finished outcome that we're seeing. So, and if you can direct any questions to the Q&A, some people have put it into the chat, some questions, we'll get to them at the end. So thanks very much, Adam.
Thanks, Darren. So let's have a look at what we've learned. What we know that doesn't work is roofing. Trying to audit roofing jobs through the virtual audit, is a big safety concern. Climbing ladders, walking around on the roof, looking through a phone or an iPad is a recipe for disaster. Drainage inspections don't tend to work either, and due to the nature of the drainage inspection, and the fact that we don't inform other plumbers if we're turning up for a normal field drain inspection. So to keep a level playing field, we chose to delete these types of inspections from the scope. Carbon monoxide auditing, again, doesn't work due to the nature of the test. It's too difficult to ascertain the conditions that are present and then trust the outcome of the test. Phone IT connection, poor vision and or no connections. Some areas, and one of our major concerns is the Clyde sort of Cranbourne area. We get very, very poor reception there. Same with basements and car parks. When we do encounter poor reception or app issues, we try to utilise FaceTime or video calls on the Androids. And we try to take some screenshots to achieve a satisfactory result for the plumber and for the VBA. What has worked? Appliance audits, like we saw in the video, split systems and heat pump type appliances. Gas appliance audits tend to work pretty well. Hot water systems, solar, hydronic boilers, pool heaters, things like that. Smaller renovations, kitchens, bathrooms, small extensions. Rectification audits work really well too. It gives us a much quicker turnaround on being able to book the rectification audits. And we get a greater regional reach. Being able to audit regional certificates has been a huge benefit of the virtual audit program. Stakeholder engagement combined with no travel time has enabled us to reach plumbers who potentially haven't seen us for a few years. Right, some progress and results for the last financial year. The program was developed for the COVID-19 environment to continue with our regulatory function, which minimises our movement within the community and extends our reach. We nearly conducted 2,000 audits, so 1,898 virtual audits were completed last year. Our rectification notices were reduced by 135% due to the quick turnaround, as mentioned before, and nothing is now outstanding past 30 days. And moving forward, training and fluid improvement of the systems, we conduct a 360 look at the program quite regularly and see what improvements we can make. The next step for us is to increase our focus and regional reach using the virtual audits. This doesn't mean that we won't be out face-to-face again in the regions, but until COVID settles down, we won't be back on the road to get that far. We still do a lot of metro audits and inspections. We will balance our approach to field versus virtual auditing based on risk, because we do sometimes book the virtual audits, but through the videos, sometimes the auditors can sort of get a feel that what's being captured isn't clear enough, so they then rebook the audit to be a field audit. We're going to use digital auditing when it makes sense, especially for rectifications, and we'll improve our capability of the whole team. Auditors, inspectors all the auditors and inspectors will be upskilled. All right, so that's our presentation finished. I think we'll start with Darren maybe while I sort of bring everything down and have a look at some questions.
Stuart's got his hand up there, so across to Stuart for a minute.
Sorry, Darren, that's my failure of technology.
Sounds fantastic. So one of the questions that came up in the chat, Adam, was, what is risk-based, mean for us? And there was a couple of questions from quite a few people regarding that. So, I can start that by stating that we take a risk-based approach to plumbing audits via a weighting system. So the type of work that we know is of high risk, but we also to look at the practitioner. So we put a weighting system over the practitioner, and that is if they're new to the industry, they've failed an audit before, or a complaint has been lodged on the practitioner, and a few of these other areas that we'll look at, and we put that rating over. And what that does is, because as you can appreciate, there was over 445,000 certificates last year. We take a sampling of that. So we want to make sure that we're actually looking at the more higher risk outcomes. So by putting this rating system over the type of work and the practitioner, it brings certain people up for an audit and inspection, and we do that. And if they pass, then they will go to, down to the bottom of the list would be the way to describe it. And if they fail, they'll get another audit again. So by doing that, it's a fair system. And also one of the ratings is, if you haven't been audited for a couple of years, you'll also come to the top for a audit at some point. So hopefully that answers that question. Adam, if you want to answer it.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Darren. There's one here about the entry, our entry for consent forms. And the question is, I understand that written consent is not required unless the building is being used, and that is correct. So for drainage inspections and unoccupied properties, we don't need the written consent, but we still do leave a document that says that we've been there for the builders to be aware.
Just answering another question from Deborah, mentioned about pool barrier inspections and virtual. Is it possible? It's really interesting. We found through the testing of what we did, we found the smaller applications, which is why we mentioned renovations and that were really good outcomes for us to use virtual audits. To do a pool inspections based on our findings, taking measurements on large scales is an issue. So, if you're measuring a small amount, for example, 150 mil, it's very easy to pick it up on a camera. But if you're looking over large sections, it can be a lot more difficult. That's why, I can't give you too much on pull barriers because we haven't done that. We've only focused on plumbing, but I can tell you what some of the boundaries are of doing larger inspections. So hence we focus more on, as we indicated, single appliances. The example we gave you was some appliances on a 4-unit site. So we can do larger sites, but we were really focusing on certain elements of that, not the whole approach. So
there's a question here about will all future audits be virtual? And no, all audits won't be virtual in the future. We're going to try and come to a nice ratio that suits the VBA and the plumbing practitioners. It has been utilised through COVID, and which has really made moving around the state a bit easier for everybody involved. If you're weighing up to buy a tablet, we can't answer that. They do work better for these virtual audits, but the phone does work well as well. And there has been a couple of questions here about the auditor asking questions about the works that weren't on the certificate, and that is so we can get a better understanding of who's done what. And if we notice that something might not quite be right, we can then look into the other certificates lodged for that property.
And going on that with technology, Adam, it's fair to say that we've tried to make sure that we make sure that we're utilising IT equipment that everyone has, which is an iPhone or a tablet. So we're not trying to expose costs to practitioners. We initiated this pilot through COVID, and it's become now one of our tools that have given us greater regional reach, and it's been very positive to be able to do a lot more inspections. And one of the areas that we did point on, which is rectification work, the big advantage for some practitioners, instead of having to rebook another appointment when the work has been non-compliant, they can go back, rectify the work, and depending on the type of work, we actually can do a virtual audit as soon as they've completed the work, saving them another trip back. So we're trying to assist the industry itself by utilising these tools to become more efficient for everyone. And so to me, there's a lot of positive upswing on it. As I said, there is some areas that it just doesn't work. And, roofing, for example, we can do it, but from safety concerns, we won't do it. And then one of the questions that came out there about privacy regarding prisons. And it was really interesting that conversation came up in one of the chats, because as you would know, Lara Prison at the moment is being done. We did do a test there for the drains using video cameras, and it worked really well, but you're 100% right. In those areas, we wouldn't be using digital technology looking around a site because of that privacy industry or part. So we do have our field-based staff, and that type of work is what we would utilize them for. So as I said, there is some restrictions to what we can and can't do. So, and some of that's for privacy reasons and others for safety.
Mm-hmm. There's also a question here about the practitioner on site needs to be registered. Depending on the type of audit that we do, the person on site doesn't actually have to be a registered practitioner. If we're asking to do a gas inspection, well then yes, that's plumbing work. So then the practitioner on site will need to be registered. But if we're looking at an installation of something and all we require is someone to hold the tablet or the phone, take a few measurements for us, well then that person then doesn't actually need to be a plumber. And there's one here about images that are not sufficiently clear, and they are right. The audit will be canned, and then we'll try and reorganise for a field audit. Somebody's actually tried to pick up the yellow plastic pipe between the gas meter and the ground. Is non-compliant. That's actually the gas provider's pipe, and it's not plastic. That's just the lagging. The pipe in the video actually came out of the wall.
One of the other questions that have come up is roughings, and with the certificate of compliance, do we actually check roughings? And the answer is, with the certificate of compliance, we wouldn't necessarily check the roughing. We would check that the points are all in the correct places and that there's no cross connections. But what we do is, part of the early part of the presentation, we spoke about a proactive plumbing. And what that team does is go out prior to a certificate of compliance, and we're actually at the early onset of when roughings and is being completed in a building. And what we do is we provide an educational letter based on low risk, medium risk, and high risk to the industry, educating them prior to it becoming non-compliant. Once the certificate of compliance has been lodged, if the work is not compliant, that's when it becomes non-compliant. So this is more an educational piece, and we are at the earlier stages, and half the team at the moment is doing that type of work. And one of the best advantages we saw last year, we saw a 30% reduction in non-compliance since we actually accelerated that program, getting in earlier, checking, rough-ins prior to actually the work being completed. So it's been very positive in that space.
There's a question here about how can we make sure the person who is showing you the measurements that you asked for is taking it from the right place. The way we communicate has had to improve through these virtual audit spaces, and the direction of the auditor asking for the questions needs to be very clear and concise. We have found in a few instances where some plumbers were trying to possibly cheat the system, and that was picked up by the auditor. So he changed that audit from a virtual audit to a field audit, and picked up that in this instance it was the height of a range hood in a kitchen was about 10 mil out, and the plumber was trying to show that it was actually the correct measurement. So we're all trying to be honest, and remember that the video is being recorded. So if you're trying to lie to the regulator through the video, well then there's a possibility that you'll be caught out.
One of the other questions, Adam, that's come up there, have we done fire sprinkler audits this way? And the answer is at the moment, no. It is a consideration of, what additional work that we will take on. So it's very possible in the future that we could do fire sprinklers, but at this stage we haven't. We've been focused on more appliances, and as we improve our processes and procedures, we'll consider other areas that we may utilize this going forward. So that hopefully that answers your question, Mark, on that. The other question that's come up is Ginger has asked regarding roof inspections. She's given us some information regarding body cams, and if that would be a consideration, or wearing wireless headsets. Great, suggestions. Again, it really comes down to, we don't want to ask practitioners to be going to purchase these type of things. We're trying to keep it cost effective for the industry. They are possible. I mean, obviously large sites as well. We could, consider looking at drones, and, they're utilizing technology in today is fantastic. And, really we've got to consider all these things, because it will get us a better outcome and more efficiencies for the industry. So we will keep improving this as we go forward. But certainly great suggestions there. Thanks, Ginger.
Here's another one on roofing: is what's the strategy to address roof plumbing inspections? the strategy is field audits, and we won't be reducing field audits on roofing inspections, but I might take this opportunity to ask all the roof plumbers that if you're going to do a roof audit, please bring a ladder. We find so many roofing inspections where the plumber doesn't bring a ladder and we can't access the work. So if you get called up for a roofing audit, let's please provide a little bit of access so we can get the audit over the line. There's one here about drain inspections being virtual. No, drain inspections won't be virtual. I have done one drainage rectification, which was quite a simple little one. It was about a bit of concrete and one branch was falling the wrong way. So we did manage to get that over the line as a virtual, but as a drainage inspection, no, they won't be done virtually. There is one here about drainage audits being increased. We are trying to get a higher focus on drainage audits, inspections. At the moment, due to COVID, we are trying to focus on external audits. So we're not going into people's homes. So you may have noticed an increase in the auditors and inspections being out there. So be mindful of that. That you guys are booking these times for inspections, and if you're not ready, there is an infringement process in place too to try and improve the behaviours of some of the guys that are sort of taking a risk in just laying their drains and backfilling and not actually trying to do the right thing.
One of the questions from Dale is why does it take so long for plumbing investigations for non-compliant plumbing work? So I suppose the answer to that is, once it becomes non-compliant and a plumbing practitioner, which has 14 days to rectify the work and is negotiated depending on the size of the job, shows that they are not going to rectify the work. It does, as you can appreciate, go to plumbing investigations. And the question is really asking, why does it take so long for it to process? Well, it depends on the size of the job and also very dependent on the information that needs to be gathered for it to become escalated to a hearing or any other discipline action. So I suppose it's very hard to do without talking about specifics to be able to give you a time frame around that, because each individual job will take a different time frame. So hopefully that answers you the process anyway.
There's one here about virtual audits and if they fail. The registered plumber or whoever's on site is notified of the issues, but the licensed plumber will still always get that rectification notice, which steps out what breaches they may or may not have that they've made.
Another question here is that Chris has put in that he's lodged a certificate 4 to 6 months ago, and now they've come up for an audit and would like to know why the delay. And I suppose what we can say is we are working on a risk-based sheet, and we are looking at certificate of compliances up to 6 months of age. Some practitioners that come to our attention, we may go back further than that. Occasionally, there isn't a rule that we apply to just say it is a black and white outcome. So we have gone back to some certificates that go back over 12 months, depending on the risk.
Yeah, and there's one here from Rob Clement about disconnecting heaters and capping off gas lines. And yes, Rob, you do need to be issuing compliance certificates because you are altering the gas system. And then there's a question from Bradley. Can you request not to have a virtual audit? Of course. If you don't want to do a virtual audit, we'll just book it for a normal field audit.
I might take that opportunity, I think, to thank everyone for being involved today and for the level of engagement. It's been a fantastic turn up from everyone. So first of all, I really want to thank the practitioners out there for attending today's session. We had around about 850 attendees, which is absolutely sensational,
Really
particularly
good.
when this is our the first plumbing session we've done on this practitioner education series, specifically orientating towards the plumbing sector. So thank you for your support, is very much appreciated. And I think what we're all learning is, coming out of COVID, there are many learning opportunities. And in this instance, for us, it's been the rollout of the virtual inspection space, and also the webinar series, both of which we've seen to be very valuable and well received by industry, and both of which we intend to continue to roll out and improve as we go along. I think it's also fair to say that we haven't got either of them perfect at this stage, and there will be a progression of improvement as we go through. So with that in mind, in terms of the webinar component, I would certainly encourage everyone to fill in the post-event survey. That will help give us information we can use to try and improve the offering. We are, as you would note, we have been recording this session, and that will be uploaded onto the VBA YouTube site, and that will be accessible for people to revisit, or colleagues who may not have been able to make it today to actually access and avail themselves on. I'd also like to thank Darren and Adam. They put a lot of thought into this and are very passionate about trying to improve the offering to industry and a transfer of knowledge and insight. And they've really worked hard to try and answer as many questions as possible and provide good support. We also had a recent webinar for site inspections and enforcement, and we had a really good follow-up for that, and we had actually a second session following overwhelming feedback. So, you know, if we improve this offering, it's really valued by people, we will continue to roll it out. In closing, I just want to thank you all for your attendance, your support. We will be going through the questions that we're actually on the question board. There's 74 that are listed there that I can see on the screen. We'll go through those and actually pull out key elements of that we can actually take away and try and look at how we might answer them in how we improve our operations also. So the questions that may not have been answered to date won't go wasted. We will mine those questions for further improvement opportunities. On that note, we might close out today's session. Thank you all. Hope you all stay safe, and hopefully you all valued this exercise and share the opportunity with other people in the industry. So when we hold the next one, let's see if we can get a higher number of attendees. So thank you very much, and hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks, Stuart.